Hello, everyone. We are kicking off season 10 of the Grow Your Business for Good show. This is the podcast where Amy and I help coaches, consultants, and service-based business owners build thriving businesses that are both sustainable and profitable. Today, we're going to be talking about something that might make you do a double take: the brilliantly boring business model. Now, if you're anything like me, the word boring might just send you off into a creative fluster and it may not sit well. If it sounds mundane, uninteresting, and well, sort of dull, then tune in and let's get ready for a monumental mindset shift. Welcome to the Grow Your Business for Good show. This is a place where coaches and consultants gather so you can learn how to lead a world-class business that does not tax your time, your energy, or your financial resources. We are your hosts, Shannon Hernandez
and Amy Hager of the Joyful Business Revolution. And our number one goal is to bring you clarity and insight on how to grow your business for good. All right, I'm going to start off by a reframe of the word boring. And what I would love to reframe it to be is that it's meant to be more reliable, predictable, and profitable. So what if boring was the key to a business that actually works without burning you out when we think about the reframe of that definition?
Hallelujah, people. Hallelujah. So I accidentally coined the term brilliantly boring business, and we had two very distinct things happen. One, people reaching out in anger that says, I don't want a boring business. Right. And then the second group of people reaching out saying, oh my God, yes. How can you show me how? And so Amy's right. We had to do a reframe. And even I had to do a reframe because I'm your neurodivergent entrepreneur who loves to create all kinds of new shit and break what's actually working. So when your business is boring in all the right ways, here's what it means. You found a system that works for you, an offer that generates consistent revenue, and you have the freedom to go live your life, ding, 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 outside of your business. So today we're going to dissect this concept piece by piece and show you how to create a business that is brilliantly boring and wildly successful. I do want to remind you that this is season 10. It is airing in April 2025, and this means that spring is here. If you didn't catch this in earlier episodes, Joyful Business Revolution has pivoted all of our messaging to get rid of the capitalistic quarterly nonsense and embrace the seasons of natural flow and growth. So what is spring season about? We're all about planting seeds in the spring, tilling our soil, weeding those flower beds, starting new beginnings, and making shifts that result in sustainable business growth. So as Amy and I dive in today to the brilliantly boring business model, you might just be asking yourself, is it time to pare some shit down and weed my beds? And if so, welcome to spring. So Amy, let's talk about the core pillars of a brilliantly boring business.
Yeah. So, well, there's three words, right? Brilliantly, boring, and business. So there's three core pillars. And so if we first kick off with brilliant, your business model is intellectually designed. You have a client attraction strategy that consistently brings you in leads. You love the way that you're working with your clients. The second pillar is going to be boring. And so you don't have to worry about money. There's no surprises. You don't have to recover from unexpected disasters. You don't have to work more than what you want, maybe a few days a week. So it's giving you the time to travel, to enjoy your hobbies, to live your best life. And then the last piece is business. You're running a profitable business, not an expensive hobby. Your pricing really supports the revenue goals and the offers. so that you can meet clients where they are and give them the opportunity for transformations, because that's what you're creating in your service-based business, is that transformation for your clients.
Absolutely. And I don't know about you all listening today, but boring to me makes my brain so happy when it comes to my business. There's lots of place I get to innovate, all right? But please understand that a brilliantly boring business isn't built by accident. It is created with so much intention and so much of getting rid of 80% of what's on your to-do list, making you busy, and radically embracing 20% to drive revenue and to be more simple. And so how did I learn this? I learned this early on when I decided that I was never, ever, ever going to compete on price.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this may floor some of you, but instead of offering a confusing mix of price points and discounts, early on, what I did is I made a bold decision. Every offer that I created would be priced at around $3,500, and the only difference would be how clients chose to engage with me.
Yeah.
So to break this down for you, here's how I rolled this out. $3,500 for a messaging and positioning strategy intensive. That is where you can come work with me one-on-one via Zoom or in New York City / New Jersey, and we can get to work on better messaging and positioning your offer. If you chose to do that and then you wanted to go on, or you felt like you were strong in that one, you could purchase the lead magnet intensive, which is approximately 3,500 times two payments of 3,500, right? Where we dive into your lead magnet, we dive into your client attraction strategy, and we design what we call that level 5 lead magnet that attracts your most interested buyer and turns them into a client within 30 days. If you wanted to work with me one-on-one, it's 3,500 times 6 months of one-on-one business messaging, marketing, strategy consulting. So Amy, what is the beauty of this brilliantly boring model where you who are in sales don't have to think about now what price is it? And then us, when we're marketing, we know we don't have to keep lowering prices and offering discounts.
Exactly. So I think the beauty of all of this is we're teaching the same thing, but at different depths and different durations. So like Shannon said, we're not reinventing the wheel every time that I have a sales conversation with someone. We're really leveraging our signature method to support clients in multiple ways, but without adding the complexity to your business. And so as the person who handles all of our sales conversations, and when I teach sales to our clients, they're amazed on how quickly I can get to figure out what is the right service for that person. And it's because in our sales conversation, I'm asking very pinpointed questions. We have a form that they fill out that gives me some good clues to where I need to dig a little bit deeper in that sales conversation so that I can envision how we can help them. And then it's really talking through, is that the support that they actually need? And if they, let's say that I suggest that 1-day intensive, that might be overwhelming to that person. And so if that seems like it's going to be too much for them all in one setting, then we can talk about how we can spread this out over a few sessions, what that feels like, what that looks like. But we're really following that same signature method, no matter how we're working with you.
Yeah. And something Amy said is really important that I want you all to pay attention to. And it is that we meet people where their learning style lives.
Yeah.
Right? So what's that mean? If you know 1 day of complete focus will wipe you out for a while, then we will break it up. Right? And so that's why we have these conversations with people so that we understand what's the way you learn best, what's the way you retain, how can we really support you in this process. And the thing to really remember here is that our offers, they're consistent, they're simple, they meet you exactly where you are and help us run a brilliantly boring, sustainable, and profitable business, right? So, Amy, we're going to talk about McDonald's.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting to think through the model of let's take it out of the coaching world and let's talk about McDonald's. And I was just leading a panel where I actually had someone who worked at like the McDonald's corporate, and we talked about some of these things in our panel that Shannon's going to dive into. But Shannon also has some experience of working at McDonald's.
Yes, and that corporate is called Hamburger U, by the way. And it's an amazing place. So y'all, you want to talk about brilliantly boring? The first thing they do when you get to McDonald's is they put you on the fry machine. And I can't tell you, like, I was way too smart for the freaking fry machine. I was bored out of my mind. I could flip fries out of that machine faster than you could eat a bundle of fries that were given on your plate. Right? So at the age of 16, right, I went to work for McDonald's. Fun fact, our McDonald's in our very small town situated between a cornfield and a bean field was the only one of 3 McDonald's to ever close down in the world.
Oh, wow.
However, I learned a lot about business there. So everyone starts on the fry machine. There are no exceptions. It doesn't matter if you worked at a McDonald's in another place at another time, you start on the fry machine. Every hamburger gets exactly 1 squirt of ketchup, 1 squirt of mustard, half a teaspoon of dehydrated onions, and 2 pickle rounds. And every cash register is counted the same way at closing, and it's counted twice. And then someone comes behind the manager and counts 1 more time to verify.
So as you're listening to this process from Shannon about McDonald's, you're like, why the heck does this actually matter? And so I want to really point it and make it clear. Simplicity scales. Like when you think about how busy a McDonald's can get, and there's a busload of kids from a basketball tournament or whatever it may be, pulls on up, they can crank out like 60 hamburgers in 2 minutes flat. And that's by design. It's not a fluke. They're meant to be able to produce at that high of a rate because of the simplicity of how they've structured that business.
And so I went on my little expedition and I said to myself, I cannot keep offering all these things to all these people, writing all these different proposals. This one wants this one wants that. I don't even remember what the hell it's called or how much the offer is. And so what did I do? I went back to my roots of a 16-year-old McDonald's, and I made things boring in my business. And the more boring, remember the reframe Amy said at the top of the hour, the more boring, the more money I made. There was no more customizing every offer. There was no more constantly tweaking my price points, and there was no more exhausting launches. The more boring I made things in my business, the more freedom I had to do all kinds of other things that I love to do, like art, travel, and volunteering.
Yeah. And so the power of really that brilliantly boring business is about simplifying, it's about streamlining, it's about systematizing so that you can really grow sustainably. And so I want to throw a couple questions at you, Shannon, that I typically get or that you typically get as well when we're talking about the brilliantly boring business model. And I think you kind of already touched on this. So let's start here. The question I get is, doesn't a boring business mean I'm stuck doing the same thing day in, day out forever?
Drum roll, no. No, not at all. In fact, the operations of your business, the systems, the processes, those should be boring, right? But your life should be exciting. So when I know that I go into Asana and I need to duplicate a task that literally has 52 subtasks in it for everything we need to do to get a landing page set up for a workshop, I don't have to think of it again. It's all systematized, right? And so when you can get your business operations and processes running smoothly, you actually have more time for creativity, passion projects, and trying new things. And I think one of the really important things here, Amy, I just wrote this in my journal this morning when I was doing my morning journaling. I am so excited to be unplugging for 13 days on this trip to Bali that I have coming up. And what I wrote in my journal is, I am going to carry a pen and paper with me everywhere because my brain is going to be so free. That is where I will have great ideas for the marketing and for what we're going to do in the next phase of this brand. Yeah. And that's really exciting to me because when you're constantly putting out fires, constantly reinventing the wheel, you don't have any space to daydream, any space to like creative brainstorm or mastermind with your business friends or lay on a beach and let seagulls give you your next answer to business growth.
I think that's so true. And I think the other thing too, though, is when you do allow yourself that time to dream, that time to be free, that time to not really have to think about the business, having that paper and journal with you the whole time will be wonderful. But I think the other thing too is we actually have a process. So when you come back with those ideas, like how do we filter them? How do we start to implement them? Because every time you have that space and freedom within your brain doesn't mean you come back and reinvent the business. The whole point of the boring business, the brilliantly boring business model, is to be able to come back and have that operating. So while Sheena's gone, there's still going to be sales made. There's still going to be marketing going out, and there's still going to be a full operating business, even though Shannon will not have touched anything within this business for 13 days straight. So I think that is the beauty right there. It's not being stuck in that same thing forever. It's having that space and freedom that you need to go do what you want to do.
Brilliantly boring, blissful business model. I'm adding a B, Amy, because
you're adding a B. Blissful. I love it. Okay, well, I have another question that I frequently get is, and this is when I'm working with our clients, if I have multiple offers at different price points, does that mean that my business isn't boring enough?
No. The key here is that things are simple and repeatable. Right. So if you have multiple offers, but they're all based on your same signature method and structured pricing, you're still on the right track. So I just want to take a moment here and I want to talk about our expand method. Our expand method is our 6 steps to growing your business in the most sustainable and profitable way. And each letter in the expand method, which is our signature method, stands for something different. Now, what's that mean? That means if client 1 comes to me and they need to work on the E, the energetics and freeing up energy so they can actually scale and expand, then we can sell them a 1 day where that's all we work on. Yeah. But let's say somebody comes to me or comes to Amy in a sales conversation and says, I really need to work on pricing for profit and understanding my sales mechanism and how I go about selling. And so Amy may say, okay, well, that's done with us in our Joy Fueled program. And that's where we're going to start is the P, or the P and the N actually in the expand method. And then we'll start there first and then we'll work through some of these other things. And so this is what we mean by having a clearly defined signature method that you can easily refer to, but you can sell different offers within that method without recreating the wheel.
That makes a lot of sense. Again, like simplifying is so key. And so when I think of that word specifically, a lot of limiting beliefs come up around the word simplifying. And so I think another question that we frequently will get is, well, will simplifying my business actually limit my income and my impact?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to McDonald's for a minute.
Okay.
And the founder, forget his name right now, I think it was Fred. When the founder, Fred, started this McDonald's chain, he sold hamburgers. That's it. There was no cheese. There was no fries. There was no Coke. It was hamburgers because he knew that when people were out and about traveling or when people had a few minutes off to drive and get lunch, they could get a hamburger, right? As the hamburger sold and they perfected the process and they could churn out 60 of these things in 2 minutes, they said, well, what would happen if we add cheese to that burger? All they did was add cheese and charge more money. Okay. Then they practiced on the cheese. Then they said, ooh, what about fries? Anyway, they introduced a new product, in our case, a new service or a new offer, in after one was up, running, profitable, and they could do it in their sleep. Right. And so a lot of people say, well, if I simplify my business, will it limit my income? No. What actually happens is the more streamlined we can help you get your business, the easier it is to scale. And I want everyone to remember this. Complexity kills revenue. Simplicity fuels it.
I'm going to say that again. Complexity kills revenue. Simplicity fuels it. I like that. Very, very nice. Very easy to remember. Shannon, let's go ahead and just sum this up then. We're right at time.
Yeah, so if you want a business that runs without constant stress and constant chaos and this roller coaster ride of ups and downs in revenue, then I'm making the case today that you need to embrace a brilliantly boring business model. So here's what we want you to do. Number one, keep it brilliant. Let's help you get a strategy that works for you, for your learning style, for your job joy, for your strengths. Keep it boring. We're going to eliminate 80% of the unnecessary things that cause so many surprises that just keep you running around with your hair on fire. And number three, keep it a business. You all are not in business to have a hobby. Therefore, we need to make sure it is profitable.
And if this is really sinking in and resonating with you today, and you're ready to make your brilliantly boring business the best way, I want you to schedule a call with me. We'll map out simple, sustainable, and a profitable plan that's really going to help you grow with ease.
Yeah, these calls with Amy are amazing. They give you a lot of clarity in that first 20 minutes, and you will leave that call knowing exactly what your next step is from there. Amy, I also want to recommend that anyone listening takes an assessment that we created called the Business Expansion Scorecard. All right. This assessment helps you identify and fix costly business bottlenecks that are preventing you from scaling your business. This is free. You can grab it over at joyfulbusinessrevolution.com/scorecard. And let's check in and see what your results are. You can even take that assessment and then come to your call with Amy to go over the assessment, which is super fun because you have clarity then. You're bridging some gaps. So I want to tell everyone, thank you for tuning in to the Grow Your Business for Good show. Please remember to subscribe, leave a review, share your biggest takeaway from us on this episode. Hop over to LinkedIn, find me there at Shannon Hernandez. And until next time, let's build businesses that work for us, not the other way around.